Having the wrong environmental consultant on your team could potentially cost you millions in dollars and many delays and setbacks. Environmental consultants play a pivotal role in the success of a development project. Yet, while developers tend to downplay or underestimate this role, environmental regulations are only increasing and causing more issues and delays during the development process. Is your perception of an environmental consultant limited to someone who raises flags during potential violations or helps in documentation? If yes, then you might be unknowingly setting your project up for potential failure. I would define the primary role of an environmental consultant in the context of property development by saying that they are an advisor to the developer and making sure that the proposed development that the applicant or the developer wants to implement on the property actually can be constructed, can be developed the way that it is designed, and does not impact any environmental resources on the property that could potentially derail or cost a lot of money during the process. A lot of developers go into engaging an environmental consultant with the wrong mindset, with the sort of mistaken understanding they are simply there to respond to these irrelevant, quote unquote, types of environmental issues that come up on these development projects, and that otherwise they don't really have much of a role to play in getting the project to the finish line. And in fact, that's actually not really true. Environmental consultants, if they're doing their job well, really understand the development process and know where and how to handle environmental issues deftly. The outcome is more efficient and less time consuming and produces the result that the developer ultimately wants on the project, regardless of their initial perception of what needs to happen. I would suggest that any developer out there who is looking to develop a piece of property to start engaging with an environmental consultant right from the beginning. And the reason is that you could be potentially setting yourself up for failure by thinking that all you need to do is go to an engineer who might be able to help you design the property just like how you want it. But then, 3-6 months down the road, when you're in the application process with your city or county or other local agency, they all of a sudden say, oh, you need a biological study. You need a wetland delineation. Where are the trees on your property? What are those significant regulated environmental resources that are there or might be there that could cause you to at least redesign your project and possibly might even prevent you from developing at all? Due diligence during the development process or before that development process even happens is super critical because you want to know what you're dealing with before you start designing, permitting, and trying to install something. So just like anything else in life, if we don't know all of the facts about the existing conditions of a situation, how can we make the best decisions about moving forward with planning, designing, constructing? Those are big, significant efforts. And if you start going down those paths without really doing the due diligence on the assessment side of understanding what the baseline existing conditions are, that potentially you'll have to unravel that entire process all the way back to the beginning as you're going through an application process with the city or county. The absence of due diligence on a project becomes very poignant when you start going through an application process with the city or county and they all of a sudden ask a question like, where is your biological study? Or you need a wetland delineation on your project, on your property. And so right there, if you haven't done that due diligence already, then we have to go back and do it again, or do it and then assess how does that impact. I would recommend that any developer out there look at engaging their environmental consultant through 5 basic steps that they're going to have to go through to develop their project. It all starts with assessment or due diligence at the beginning to collect the information that you need to understand the baseline, the existing conditions of what is there so that you can avoid it. Then the next step is to engage your environmental consultant in the planning and design process so that they can follow along with your engineer or your planner or your architect and prepare a project description and any sort of associated minimization or permitting documents that might need to be prepared in order to get your application in the door with the local agency. And if you need a state or a federal resource permit to go along with your application, then they can readily prepare that at that time and submit and get it completed by the time your land use permits or other mapping approval happens at the local level. So that way, all of those approvals get done at the same time, and it gets you ready for building, actually constructing on the property. So then once you get past that concept approval with your county, your city, then the next step is to engage your environmental consultant throughout the construction process, because there will be many different environmental conditions that come with the permits that you have obtained, and you want to make sure that you stay in compliance with those permit conditions to avoid any sort of a renege or a cancellation of those permits. I would differentiate a transactional approach and a strategic approach in environmental consultant by looking at how the consultant himself or herself goes through the motions of getting approvals. So all consultants know that there's pretty much a standard way that agencies work, and they will set their businesses up to help developers with standard types of documents, standard types of applications. But there's really, it's the upper echelon that pays more attention to what the content is in these assessment documents or planning documents or applications or mitigation strategies to either help or hinder their clients. That high-level strategy of constantly thinking about what would be the best interest of my client here. How could they best position themselves to legally be able to get the approvals that they need on this project and to get to the finish line in a cost and time-efficient manner. Many less consultants think in that respect than looking at the checklists that an agency might distribute through their website that you just need to fill out, and then that's what they sell. So it's up to you on whether you want to have somebody who is potentially lower cost and could go through the motions for you, or somebody that's really thinking about the content that they're actually putting into these documents to help you save time and money overall. We help developers through the entire development process by engaging and having customer-friendly approach, if you will, to each stage of what we see a developer go through. We start with assessment, we move on to design and planning support, and then we get into applications. We finally end up with helping our clients negotiate mitigation strategies and complete construction monitoring and reporting for their projects. And so we're very well suited to providing a high level of customer service at each one of those specific stages, and also thinking ahead about what's coming next so that we can really help you plan your project out. I would suggest that any developer out there who is concerned about meeting their environmental compliance requirements as they go through their own development, to really think critically about what it is they're doing on the ground, and then look for that environmental consultant who asks the right questions, asks those critical questions, and really seems to get into the details of what is on the property rather than just going through the motions of completing a document that might end up getting thrown out of an agency, and you have to go back and redo it. So that's really important. You also want to look for an environmental consultant that really understands your perspective, as well as your other consultants, especially engineers and other designers and people that are just not familiar with environmental regulations. How do those people think about this kind of stuff? It's almost like Greek to them, So a good environmental consultant really breaks down to the basic level what it is we're talking about, so that we can make clear decisions without getting all of the acronyms and other jargon in the way. For more environmental advice, visit our website at coxplanningsolutions.com, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn.